in big groups we had 8 people. This is the biggest we've had so far. And it's worked out fine. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and start now. And the first question, as I mentioned earlier, first off, thank you for being here for this council endorsement interview process. We, of course, have 2 races, District 6 as well as the Super District 8 position 2. So we got 2 races that we're going to be dealing with here. And I'd like you to, as you answer this first question, to announce your name and what district you're running for. So the first question is, why are you running, and what would you hope to accomplish if you're elected? I'm going to start with Theryn.
My name is Theryn and I am running for Memphis City Council District 6. I am running because I want to restore faith in my community by bringing accountability, integrity, and transparency back to local government. For far too long, the neighbors in District 6 have not been served, and in fact, they've been underserved. And I'm here to ensure that they get equitable resources across the entire district. That means from South Memphis to South Main and everything in between.
Next.
My name is Frank Johnson. I'm running for Super District 8, Position 2. I'm running because I care about my city. I want to see equity in our city for the first time in its entire existence. I'm from one of those communities that were considered, disinvested or whatever they want to call it. But I know now through study and through personal experience, and there were other economic factors that led to these issues. And I really want to spread this equity out because we see certain parts of Memphis have all this development while others, for almost 50 years have not seen that. So my whole race is about equity for all Memphians.
Next.
Yes, good afternoon. My name is Jaques. I would like to thank the Commercial Appeal for giving me the opportunity to be in front of you all today. With that being said, I am running for Memphis City Council District 6. At the end of the day, I am the only candidate that has an education and a workforce development background. Since 2012, we've hosted over 20 job and career fairs across the district, from South Memphis all the way to Westwood at the community center. One of the biggest things that we want to do is create a livable District 6, and that's really what this whole campaign push is about. Thank you.
Next.
Hi, I'm Brian Saulsberry. A little bit about me. I'm a veteran of the United States Air Force, Howard grad, as well as Harvard. And my goal is to bring the financial management skills that I've acquired through my course of about years working for my own company here in the city, as well as to bring a transparency and accountability across board. And the level of efficiency, promoting the level of efficiency whereby organizations under the umbrella of the city of Memphis can run like they should and better serve our communities across the city of Memphis.
Cheyenne.
Hi, my name is Cheyenne Johnson, and I'm seeking to be elected for your representative for Super District 8, Position 2. I desire to do so because as your prior Shelby County property assessor, oftentimes I saw products of development being completed, but never did I understand how those projects actually came about. A lot of times the citizens would ask me, why don't we have hotels here? Why don't we have more retail shops in these various communities? I want an opportunity to be there, right there where the action is, and be able to explain and do things that will promote economic development. I have the years of experience in a management position. I have the years of experience interacting with all the citizens throughout Shelby County, and I think I can make a difference. I care about Memphis, and that's what it takes. Somebody who actually cares about Memphis to be on that city council. Thank you.
Next.
Hi, my name is Craig Littles, and I'm running for Super District 8, Position 2. I'm running because I truly believe in Memphis. My time as a 26 years, worked with juvenile crime prevention programs citywide, servicing almost 2,000 youth now in crime prevention programs, 28 years in law enforcement as a Memphis Police Department officer, as well as 10 years military service, including Desert Storm. Like I said before, I truly believe in Memphis. I truly believe that a city council will allow us the opportunity to afford opportunities for youth, our veterans, our homeless, and so many other people that go neglected and unthought of in our city. I truly believe in this city, and I truly believe that a seat will allow us to continue servicing the community that we love so much.
Next.
I'm Ed Ford Sr. I served on the council once before, years 1999 to 2007. There were a lot of different things that we worked on, especially economic development and poverty. in District 6. District 6 is one of the areas where it's just been not as good as all the other areas like East Memphis and some of the others. I have a degree in government and public affairs from Tennessee State University. All my life we worked very hard, myself, my family, trying to help people. I've always lived in District 6. Again, I've seen some things that need to be changed. Again, in District 6, along with the city of Memphis. That's one reason why I decided to run again. Maybe I can make those different changes again. Thank you.
Kurt?
Perry Bond. Adoption brought me to South Memphis 48 years ago. I ran my first campaign in 1991 against a 4-term incumbent. It was then that I began to really see and envision just how much better District 6 could be. I graduated, I went to a high school straight out of a private school, high school that most of the city didn't think much of because we didn't have that. And we were considered an inner city school. Graduated, went on to Southwest Tennessee, graduated with a degree in associate in management. Retired from Federal Express after 13 and a half years. And I've spent the last 28 years since I ran my first campaign just listening and learning to the different people throughout the district, different age groups. Never forgetting that we place a lot of emphasis on our youth, but it's the senior citizens in District 6, which make up most of District 6, that have held those communities together throughout the years, and they must never be forgotten.
Next.
My name is Davin, Clemons. I'm running for Memphis City Council District 6. I am a 17-year police veteran. I'm running for council because I would like to bring back community policing within the district and citywide. I would also like to invest in vocational training. I would like to create a state-of-the-art vocational center in 38126. That area is the poorest zip code in the state of Tennessee. I grew up in 38126. I made it out of 38126. I live in District 6 all of my life. I went to elementary, high school, and college in District 6. District 6 is near to my heart. It's a lot of life. Poverty is running rapid in District 6. I would like to also promote community inclusion and major developments within District 6. So we have a lot of work to do within District 6, and I think District 6 needs new leadership, new voice, and new innovative ideas to create a more livable District 6 for all individuals.
Okay. So I'm going to start with the first question. It's a reminder on how this all works. You get up to a minute for the answer for a question. You don't have to answer every question. You can pass on it. I'm going to start with David, since you were the last one to go. And the question concerns crime. In every survey we do with readers, crime ranks number 1, and I'm sure you hear it a lot from your potential or your current constituents. And I want to know, the murder rate in Memphis this year is on target to hit 200 murders for the year, and that's below the record year of 2016, but it still is a worrisomely high number. And violent crime, according to many people, is still a problem in our city. What would you do to address that and try and drive those rates down?
So crime is tied to poverty and education. So our people need healing. Our people have gone through so much, black and brown individuals. So we have to heal our community. But as far as the aspect of crime and my experience with the police department, I would bring back, like I said, community policing. But what I will also do is work with the Shelby County government to expand our reentry program to focus on the violent crime committers. We have a reentry program, and I think it does a good job with the white collar committers, but we don't focus on the violent committers. And so we have to focus on those individuals. That will stop recidivism, and I think that will work. And until we once again tackle poverty and education, we really can't get that hand on our crime. But I think those two, we can start with the community policing and start with the reentry programs to focus on the recidivism rate for those violent crime offenders.
Kurt?
I think we have to continue to stress the importance of the community as a whole being involved. The police can't do it all. A large part of our district are retirees. And they can just about tell you everything that happens in your neighborhood. But if we can get them to just overcome this one word, fear, I think you would see a reduction in crime, because a lot of crime usually occurs when most of us are probably at work, with the exception of those that are retired. I graduated from the Citizens Police Academy in 2017, so I got a first-hand view just in that 6 weeks period of everything that it takes, that the police pretty much undergoes. And so I'm always stressing citizens to attend the Citizens Police Academy, so because it's something that they all can do.
Yeah. Crime usually starts at home. Okay? A lot of these younger people nowadays, mothers and fathers are younger. You know, you don't have them there in the different homes. Like you were saying, community policing. We had COAC units during the time that I served on the council. You know, they kind of got rid of the COAC unit, but Blue Crush did not really help any. It kind of hindered more. But the community police, you had them in the different community centers, you had them out in the streets going in different neighborhoods, which kind of made a difference. Also, when it comes to different crimes, things like that, that's where our youth come in. A lot of times they're juvenile, and the older ones have them doing certain things because they know if they get caught, they would end up going to juvenile court, to the jail, but within a week, 2 weeks, they will be back out. So we got to make sure that, hey, families are involved. If it's your loved one, please, I prefer them to be turned in instead of deceased. I'm in the funeral business. I see it every day. And you look at the different youth, you know, that's out there. You know, one thing, especially when you get a lot of the different crime, I had to shut my place down one time because, hey, it was so many, hey, they had more assault weapons than what the police department had. You know, I had to make sure that the ones inside could not go outside and the ones outside couldn't come in. Bad thing about it, we got to make sure, that's why I said community policing. And it took about 40 minutes for the police to get to funeral home, which is right down the street. They said, when everything's open, we'll be there. All of those different things must change. And it's happening everywhere when it comes down to crime.
Correct.
Hey, for me, I'm Craig Littles, again, Super District 8C2. For me, it's twofold. As a 28-year veteran of the police department, I worked in several positions, whether it's homicide, whether it was sex crimes, and community policing as well. Community policing really worked. But for us, as an officer, morale is low. One thing that's important is retaining and attracting good officers. Oftentimes, different municipalities are plucking out officers out of our situations, and they're becoming officers of other places. We need to retain those officers and motivate them. One thing would be great is to fight and advocate for higher wages and benefits. Those are things that other municipalities use as a way to attain officers from our programs. Two, for the last 30 years, I've advocated for youth in our community. I've started youth programs around the city. I founded the Police Activities League. Also, I'm a national trustee of that. For us, juvenile crime is where it starts at. We began program service in 2,000 youth citywide, as well as countywide, and after-school program during the most critical times of the day, summer and after school. We work with kids in educational positions, nutrition programs, sports leagues, intervention, as well as mentoring programs. So for us, it's twofold. We can catch those kids at the most critical times of their lives, starting as early as 5 years old. They start to respect the laws that officers enforce, as well as understand how things need to work, and when they become older and become citizens, quality citizens of our community.
Cheyenne?
Yes. You know, crime at one time was only seen in certain neighborhoods. But now there's no place where crime won't show up. So we're going to have to look at this crime situation as a disease. It is something that's spreading throughout the whole city. And we're going to have to do everything that we would do to fight a health disease. We'll do the same way for fighting a crime disease. We're going to have to learn to do research. Why are people doing what they're doing? You know, not only do the teachers need to learn what to look for in individuals who have children who have behaviors, we as neighbors, church members, are going to have to start visualizing and being trained on what activities actually leading towards these criminal acts to take place later. There shouldn't be so-called a value or a cost factor when it comes down, because everybody should live in a safe neighborhood and they shouldn't have any fear factors. The other thing is, I too promote the police. We need to learn to respect those who are in charge and doing their best at that, helping us protect the community as a whole. I do see that a lot of officers are coming in and they are leaving because they are getting better benefits at another location. And we do need to listen to those individuals. They are the ones that are on the streets. They're the ones actually interacting with these individuals. And we need to pay close attention to our police department and respect them.
Right?
Yes, for me, I really think the COAC program was a wonderful program for the city, based upon my due diligence, what I've seen. Having children to be able to see a positive officer in the community, as well as I think it's imperative that more oversight is given to the council, the mayor, that within the budget that we have allocated funds that will support community officer programs, community leader within the communities as well. To me, I see crime in its very beginning at the youth standpoint. I've served as a board member on the YMCA. I have 3 children of my own. I do understand that if a child doesn't have the right upbringing and the right influences, then the streets will raise them. There's no doubt about it. They accept applications every day. So when I look at the scheme of as to how do we really impact crime, it's going to take a cohesive, collective effort. I am very much concerned that many of the people within the community, mentors, AAU coaches, baseball coaches, we have, it's so limited now, you go past half of these baseball fields, it looks desolate. There are many other activities that our kids can be engaged in outside of basketball and football. You know, we have baseball. I've implemented a Memphis tennis youth program that I started and founded 5 years ago. I'm very passionate about kids. There's two people that I'm most concerned with. That's children and that's the elderly. So it's definitely, we got to take a very proactive effort. Don't get me wrong, police retention is important, but we got to make sure we have some oversight to say to the director, hey, we need to allocate a certain amount of funds towards youth programs within that encompasses police officers as examples for the community as well.
Next.
Yes, once again, Jaques Hamilton. I am running for Memphis City Council District 6. I believe that the only way that we're going to be able to bring down crime is to be able to provide quality resources in our district. Education and economics go hand in hand. So when you come across, when you go through District 6, you can tell that the education is low and the economics is low because of the quality of resources. So what we have to do is we have to be very intentional, strategic, and collective around providing quality resources where our citizens, our constituents, down to our next door neighbor can get to. For instance, job and career fairs, youth development programs, criminal justice reform activities and or programs to be able to help foster the issues that they're having, I like to call wraparound services. These need to be in our communities, as well as supporting small businesses, community development corporations, and neighborhood associations, because they're the ones who bring in the businesses, the retail, the entertainment, and restaurants into our community. So once again, it's all about quality resources. Thank you.
Frank?
Well, when we talk about crime and poverty in Memphis, we have to talk about a lot of things that go with it. We know that poverty in this city is a business for a lot of our industries. Tennessee is a right-to-work state. We can't leave these issues out. Another thing that we're not talking about in the city that leads to a lot of the things that we see is the issue of landfills and neighborhood contamination. And I say this as a child that grew up next to one of the largest in the city. I myself have had learning disabilities and educational problems because of the effect. I've been a teacher. I've watched children that were lead poisoned coming to school, having the same aggressive behaviors that I saw in my friends and my family when I was young. So what happens is you have children and people walking around here right now with neurological damage from living next to landfills. I mean, I'm looking this morning, I'm looking at the opening of Foot Park, where Foot Homes used to be. How many of us know that Foot Homes was a site itself, and still is? But nothing is being done about it. And you have 3 or 4 generations of people that have grown up around that. That's neurological damage. My sister right now is recovering from an aggressive brain cancer that my mother had 20 years ago. She was lead poisoned in Foot Homes. Nobody talks about this issue. So we grow up, you have these issues and this neurological damage from it. Guess what? You get labeled as being bad while you're in school. When you grow up, those behaviors don't go away. And actually they intensify because you have not been diagnosed and you have not been treated. So you don't even understand what's going on with you. So where do you end up? You end up in jail. So again, we have issues not only of poverty, but this issue of contamination that leads to the violence that we see. And then we have access to all these illegal guns. Of course it leads to what we're seeing now. But again, we have to deal with these underlying issues. And again, our Chamber of Commerce was advertising the low wages in this city up until 2 years ago on their website to get companies to come to Memphis. Now you tell me, is poverty not a business? And we have to address that issue as well if we're going to straighten up this crime problem that we have in Memphis.
Theryn?
Wow, this is multi-layered. As a person, first let me say, as a person who recently fought a potentially terminal disease, I take real offense when somebody refers to crime as a disease. It also concerns me that someone in my race has 17 years of law enforcement, but it's not until they decided to run for office that they mention community policing. Respect between the police and the community is earned, not just given, the same as it is in any other space. Once the police and the community establish a good rapport, then trust is established. Once trust is established, that opens the door for more opportunities. Once more opportunities become apparent, that leads to financial increase. Once financial increase is obtained, that leads to a flourishing community. Once we have a flourishing community, then that reduces crime.
My colleague, Tanya Weathersby, asked this question.
Okay. You all, my colleague just asked about crime, and we always talk about crime and how it relates to poverty, but there's an element here that I hear about a lot, and I've talked to folk about, and you know, we many times there are people who will come and say that Memphis has jobs. They have jobs that pay a lot of money. There's 15,000 jobs waiting to be filled by people who don't have the skills and everything, but we have a disconnect apparently. And that disconnect is colleges, universities, whatever schools have to compete with the streets. I mean by that is competing with the streets. A lot of neighborhoods have been disenfranchised for so long. And I say this is our right opinion, and I've talked to people to say this, until gangs have moved in. They kind of are the engines of, you know, for survival for a lot of young folk. A lot of young folk grow up idolizing the people who are doing the things they shouldn't be doing. You know, when they wind up in jail and prison, it just becomes a change of address to them. What I need to hear from each one of you all is not ideas, but what would be your strategy? Using the resources of the city, on the city council, and using it, what would be your strategy to compete with the streets? To make a kid get up and say, you know, I'm not going to go do this run for this drug dealer. I'm going to go and see what kind, you know, who I can talk to so I can get another way of life. Helping them to see another way of life.
Anyone that can jump in, but everyone gets a chance to.
Let me say this. As again, having graduated in our college school, Carver. When I was in Carver, we not only had vocational training in the school, we had a separate facility, Kansasville Technical Center, which is now about to be torn down. Now again, that represented, in my generation through the mid-'80s, for those that didn't want to go to college, that represented hope. When they come back to the neighborhood now, again, you've got those facilities that represented hope being torn down. In the educational process, anytime there was, and having been a past school board candidate, every time the term budget cut came out, it usually affected first the inner city schools. Okay, so now, and the first thing to go was what they consider to be non-essential programs. So thus we lost those programs. So those programs have to come back, because when you lose hope,
Right.
that's where you start to see the deterioration of a community, a neighborhood, and thus the city. When I got hired at FedEx, that was the place to be, but everybody couldn't get hired at FedEx. So did that mean you didn't have a good job because you didn't work at FedEx? No, there were lots of good jobs here. So we've just got to restore that hope, starting at what we call middle school for sure, because if you give them hope, it makes for a better city, better neighborhoods, safer communities.
Could I interject a little bit on that? Because largely what we're talking about goes back to budget. You heard him say budget cut. This is what separates me. When I look at my background as in business and what I've attained, budget and financial analysis is what I've done all my life. It's important and it's imperative, especially coming from a financial world. You're having to look at how do you bring up revenue. Accountants account for the revenue. Marketers market the project. We need to have the vision of people that can say, this is how we can bring in new revenue. And then we take that revenue to disperse into those programs that are essential. One thing I learned, I had a conversation with an officer that was a part of it's actually called COAC. It's actually a Community Action Program. I thought it was an acronym, but it's Community Action Program. One of the issues that he told me, I said, well, why did the program retract? He said, well, Brian, quite frankly, when you make an arrest, you document that. When you stop someone on the interstate, that's a documented offense. You can document that. But it's kind of hard to document when little Johnny has told you that, hey, Big Mike came to me and spoke to me about a drug bust or a drug deal that's going to go down. There was no accountability, financial accountability. One could say, this information has led to the decrease of this particular incident occurring. Again, I'm going back to financial. We got to be able to have sound financial management within that down the street in order to say these programs are underfunded and this should be funded from the police force, even if, which we have the city council doesn't have any control once the money's released. We have influence, but we need to look at some programs and say, well, we want to see funds go in this particular direction as it relates to youth crime, youth prevention, and there's no dollar value that's going to just make us say, well, no, we can't do that because we can't account for the true essence of what the real numbers look like. We got to be willing to spend to help our people.
We're going around the room, and I'm going to moderate this privilege and say, Cheyenne, and go this way, go ahead and talk, then we'll go back that way. Okay? Go ahead.
On the city council, there's a lot of things you can do and a lot of things you cannot do. Currently, the school system is under Shelby County. So when it comes down to actually promoting vocational education, the most we can do is talk to our counterparts and encourage them to make certain that they include vocational education. I'm quite familiar with Kansas Tech. I taught there. So it did make a difference back then. The other thing is that I have been talking to a lot of businesses. We got to come up with some type of partnership with the businesses so that they can make a way and we can probably give them some money for training. A lot of times individuals actually want to work, but they just are not prepared for it. And sometimes the training which they provide is not enough for the type of job. So we got to work with partnerships, even when these new pilots come in. You know, I'm asking, what type of training are you actually providing? Don't just come in here and say, I'll give you jobs. The training needs to be there 6 months to a year before the jobs actually arrive. And that needs to be part of the consideration in that situation. We just are going to have to work closer and make sure that training is out there. Another concept that I think needs to be pushed is, once an individual is actually hired, the concept of the prior policies on keeping an individual employed has to be changed. A lot of times employers say, you miss 3 days, you out. You late 3 days, your job is over with. We're going to have to provide some type of coaching for these individuals who just started working. Because a lot of times the first week, everybody's excited. They help you with that child care. Well, the next second week, it gets a little boring for people helping. So we have to come up with child care. We're going to have things made available for these new employees to keep these jobs. And all of those are the types of things that I'm going to be pushing when the pilots come home for approval. What are they going to do about onboarding assistance?
Correct. For me, this is a passion. As you know, I work with youth all my life. I've advocated for youth. I was that child that needed that guidance. So I started, I saw a need, I addressed the need, and we have established programs already in place for the last 28 years servicing youth ages 5 to 18 in after-school and summer programs. We have curriculums of intervention programs, which consist of gang retention and understanding violence. We partner with Shelby County Schools, the Shelby County Sheriff's Office, and MPD with officers and positive role models to keep a positive influence with our youth, always being focused on what options they have. They have several doors they can choose. We make sure they try to choose the right door. Again, we service over 2,000 youth already in our program. Success rate is very high, especially with our partnerships being on board, as well as with Nike and so many other programs that help us. We open the school service to 200 youth a day in after-school and summer programs. Nutrition is one of our most important pieces because we found that children rob, steal, and kill not because they want to have nothing else to do. They do it because they're hungry. They have to feed their families. They have to feed their children, their brothers and siblings, because they have no other way out. Workforce development is key for us as well. We need to prepare our youth as well as our adults to be able to obtain jobs when they come, when they offer to them, and have the experience and the know-how and the intestinal fortitude to go out and get jobs. To me, a direct reflection of crime is also the lack of jobs, as well as youth crime in our city. We can fight those elements, I think, and we have already seen the change in our program and how well it has been enforced and absorbed in our communities, as well as our partnership city and county-wide.
Yeah, I kind of agree. Theryn, Cheyenne, you too. I want to bring up something that you mentioned when you were talking about lead. That has a lot to do with mindset, especially in the black area, okay? I was at a meeting the other week, and that was a big issue that everybody was talking about, you know, and that kind of, you know, the brains, everything else, and that's what we've been suffered with, you know, just like Kansas Votech. We really kind of need all of those things back. I went to Mitchell High School, but you had auto body shop. You had all of these different things. A lot of people